Shalom. Rosh Hashanah, the new year, literally the head of the year, is approaching, only a little over 1 week away. This week we are reading Parashat Ki Tavo, beginning in Deuteronomy chapter 26. As Moshe continues to prepare the children of Israel for entering into the land of Israel, this portion is named Ki Tavo for its opening phrase, and it shall be when you enter the land that Hashem your God gives you. Our parsha opens with the instructions for the commandment of bringing the bikurim, the first fruits of the land of Israel, to the Holy Temple. We read, "And it will be, when you come into the land which Hashem your God gives you for an inheritance, and you possess it and settle it, that you shall take of the first of all the fruit of the ground, which you will bring from your land, which Hashem your God is giving you, and you shall put them into a basket, and go to the place where Hashem your God will choose to have his name dwell there. And you shall come to the Kohen who will be serving in those days, and say to him, I declare this day to Hashem your God that I have come to the land which Hashem swore to our forefathers to give us. And the Kohen will take the basket from your hand, laying it before the altar of Hashem your God. You shall call out and say before Hashem your God, an Aramean sought to destroy my forefather, and he went down to Egypt and sojourned there with a small number of people, and there he became a great, mighty, and numerous nation. And the Egyptians treated us cruelly and afflicted us. They imposed hard labor upon us. So we cried out to Hashem, God of our fathers, and Hashem heard our voice and saw our affliction, our toil, and our oppression. And Hashem brought us out from Egypt with a strong hand and with an outstretched arm, with great awe, with signs and with wonders. And he brought us to this place, and he gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. And now, behold, I have brought the first of the fruit of the ground which you, Hashem, have given to me. Then you shall lay it before Hashem your God, and prostrate yourself before Hashem your God." In these few verses, known as the declaration or the confession of the first fruits, the Jewish pilgrim, the bearer of these first fruits, concisely summarizes Jewish history on a national level and on a personal level. The pilgrim, together with the Kohen, wave the basket before the presence of Hashem, with the setting of the basket before the altar, and the bearer of the first fruit prostrating himself before Hashem's presence. That isn't exactly the conclusion. There's one more verse. We read, "Then you shall rejoice with all the good that Hashem your God has granted you and your household, you, the Levite, and the stranger who is among you." The first fruit experience is an exquisite, transcendent expression of joy, of true joy. It's an extreme reality check, really, that brings home the fact that we have nothing in this world, that we are nothing without the Creator, that there is a Creator who continuously renews existence. Bikurim, first fruit, are all about renewal. This is the ultimate experience of humility, this true sense of humility that is born of recognizing Hashem in my life. Look what he's done for me. Look what he's taken us out and brought us to this land and given us everything, the pilgrim declares. And the declaration, these words, is the fulfillment of our recognizing God in our lives, which, if it were not expressed, would only remain locked in the world of potential. The words of recognition form the basis for the joy itself. We understand who we are and what we are doing in this world, and that just beats it all. That's joy. It's recognition and deep feeling of gratitude and the expression of thanks, this prostration. Now, I'm very fond of this teaching from the Holy Baal Shem Tov, that he makes a statement about this verse, that the first fruit are to be put in a tene, basket, which is spelled tet nun aleph, which actually, he explains, is an acronym for 3 words, ta'amim nukudot otiyot. That is the cantillation, the vowels, and the letters. In other words, the ingredients that form words. And what he's really teaching is that this basket that the first fruit are brought into is itself made up of words. In other words, the recognition. A person's thankfulness before Hashem is such an imperative, such an important part of this, that it's the words that really hold the experience. So it's a basket full of words, it's a basket full of thanks, and it's a basket full of joy. Now, the season for the fulfillment of this special mitzvah of bringing the first fruits begins on Chag HaShavuot, Festival of Weeks, actually called by the Torah Yom HaBikurim, the day of first fruits, that we find in Numbers 28-26. But with Rosh Hashanah, just a little over 1 week away, do you think there's any connection between the fact that we're reading now about the first fruits? Why does it just so happen that we're reading it now? That's my first question to you. Second question I'd like to pose is, how do we deal with the fact that this Parsha, which begins with this incredible quintessential expression of joy, also features the difficult, ominous, heavy and frightening section of the klalot, the admonition, curses. There are many verses here that form this tapestry of disaster, national disaster that can happen. And there are so many commentaries that point out, for example, that the curses are all in the singular. It's all about one person. It's not about the nation. The nation is guaranteed. And also that these so-called curses are not a threat, because like all the Torah, they're just advice. You know, if a doctor is warning you that what you're eating is not healthy, and if you keep it up, you're going to get a heart attack from those types of foods, he's not cursing you. He's not wishing it on you, God forbid. And there are many commentaries that discuss the verses of the admonition and opine as to whether or not they have already taken place in this or that historical period, and what do they mean. This analogy of a doctor's advice, it's, to my mind, the best way of understanding this. But, you know, the whole reason that Hashem took Israel out of Egypt, brought them to Mount Sinai, where they experienced and witnessed His unique oneness, delivered the Torah to them, and is now bringing them into the land of Israel, is to be for them a God, and they to Him as a people, as described in this Parsha, in these beautiful verses, verse 16. This day, Hashem, your God, is commanding you to fulfill these statutes and ordinances, and you will observe and fulfill them with all your heart, with all your soul. You have selected Hashem this day to be your God, and to walk in His ways, and to observe His statutes, His commandments, and His ordinances, and to obey Him. And Hashem has selected you this day to be His treasured people as He spoke to you, and so that you shall observe all His commandments. So on the one hand, I'm like, well, what do you expect if you walk away from all of that, from that relationship? I mean, how do we expect to survive? But these verses themselves convey an awesome secret, which is totally staring us in the face, and I assume that you got it. And it's actually beginning to answer both my points about Rosh Hashanah and the connection to the Bikurim, the first fruits, and about the proximity, the juxtaposition of the Bikurim in this Parsha with the startling, ominous admonitions. We read 3 times in these verses, this day. You have selected Hashem this day to be your God. And Hashem has selected you this day. And that's if you shall observe all His commandments this day. So if we believe the Torah to be true, in order for that verse to be true, that means that it has to be happening today. This covenantal relationship, not yesterday. And that is the secret of what we all need and want so desperately at this time of year and every day. The secret of hidchadshut, renewal. The secret of the curses, their theme, is the result of and the manifestation of getting old. And by that I mean an old mind. Getting stuck. The inability to move forward and see Hashem's hand in everything now. Rosh Hashanah and the Bikurim, the first fruits, both convey the same message and are 2 parts of one idea. What is the secret of newness? Recognition of Hashem and coming full circle. The first fruits are brought to the Holy Temple, which is the headquarters of renewal, and placed before Hashem at the altar, which is the very place from where Adam was created on Rosh Hashanah. And on that day of Rosh Hashanah, how do we serve God, who gave us Adam and his descendants, all his descendants, the breath of life on that day? By closing the circle and returning, giving back to Hashem the pure, guileless, pristine, and unadulterated breath of life to Him without pretenses or excuses, through the blasts of the shofar, which sound helps us to get everything into perspective. The bringing of the first fruits to the Holy Temple is an act that affects not only the bearer of the fruit, and not only the people of Israel, but the whole world. Because it provides a glimpse, a parting of the curtain. It reveals that the whole world is renewed constantly by the Creator. The bikurim, the first fruits, are called reshit, which means the beginning. The first, the head, because they embody the secret of newness. And Rosh Hashanah is Reshit Hashanah, the beginning of the year, the head of the year. The secret of Reshit, the first fruits, is also Reshit, the beginning. These concepts are beckoning to us a new beginning. Rosh Hashanah is all about renewal. And really it's all about a new lease on life, about the entire creation being renewed, a new light coming into the world. And the first fruits are an expression of joy, the joy born of the ability to be new and not to be stuck. As we read in verse 11, the crescendo of the Bikurim experience is, then you shall rejoice with all the goodness that Hashem your God has given you. And here's the deepest secret of all. These curses, the terrible consequences of our disconnect from God, the terrible consequences of our getting stuck, why would these things come about, do you think? Because of retribution for committing the most rebellious, heinous sins? The Torah states clearly there's only one reason if all of these curses befall you, pursuing you and overtaking you to destroy you because you did not obey Hashem your God to observe His commandments and statutes which He commanded you, and they will be a sign and a wonder upon you and your offspring forever. Verse 47, because you did not serve Hashem your God with happiness and with gladness of heart when you had an abundance of everything. Because you did not serve Hashem with joy. The secret of newness, itchadshut, of feeling new, of being new, of new light, of receiving and bringing Hashem's new light into the world, on the new year, every Rosh Hashanah and every day, is the same thing as the secret of joy. The curses are the result of things getting old, stuck, taken for granted. When there is recognition of Hashem, there is newness. And when there is newness, there is joy. And when there is no recognition, there is no joy. And I'll prove it to you now with a really amazing thought. This parsha, opening immediately with the commandment of newness, the first fruits, follows immediately after the conclusion of last week's Torah portion, Ki Tavo, which ended with the commandment that we must perpetually remember to wipe out the memory of Amalek. Tell me something, is the commandment to bring the first fruits up to the Holy Temple a direct continuation of the commandment to destroy Amalek? Or do you think the proximity of these two commandments is merely a coincidence? I think not. How ironic if you fall for that, thinking it's a coincidence, since that's exactly what Amalek is all about. At the end of Parashat Ki Tavo, Deuteronomy 25:17, we read, Zachor et asher asa lecha Amalek baderech b'tzeitchem b'Mitzrayim, asher kolcha baderech vayizanev becha kol ha'nachshalim. What am I reading? Remember what Amalek did to you along the way when you left Egypt, how he happened upon you on the way and cut off all the stragglers at your rear when you were faint and weary and he did not fear God. Then it will be, therefore it will be, verse 19, when Hashem your God grants you respite from all your enemies around you in the land which Hashem your God gives you as an inheritance to possess, that you shall obliterate the remembrance of Amalek from beneath the heavens. You shall not forget. Amalek is Israel's sworn bitter enemy, but actually it's the God of Israel who made the swear, who vowed the oath, as we find in Parashat Beshalach, the end of Exodus chapter 17. Because Hashem's war is Amalek's war, because Amalek's war is actually against God Himself and only manifest as a war against His people. There in Parashat Beshalach we read, Hashem said to Moshe, inscribe this as a memorial in the book and recite it into Joshua's ears, that I will surely obliterate the remembrance of Amalek from beneath the heavens. Then Moshe built an altar, and he named it Hashem is my miracle. And he said, for there is a hand on the throne of the Eternal, that there shall be a war for Hashem against Amalek from generation to generation. The call, the commandment, the challenge for renewal, for reshit, for a new beginning, a new head, a new revelation as expressed through the first fruits and as expressed through the experience of Rosh Hashanah, that is the direct response to the danger of Amalek. The whole battle cry of Amalek, its entire goal and purpose in the war it wages, whether it's subtly or in subterfuge or directly, is to nullify, to cancel renewal and the chance for a new start, which takes belief not only in Hashem, but also requires belief in oneself, in one's inherent goodness and ability to change. And these words that he happened upon you along the way, Asher karcha baderech, also can be read as that he cooled you off. He threw coolness on you, coldness. Amalek wants to cool things off. He wants to dampen enthusiasm in serving God, and in serving God with joy, by making you doubt. That's why Amalek has the numerical equivalent of safek, of doubt, because he wants to make you doubt if you could ever be renewed. He wants to keep things old. So we read, you shall remember what Amalek did to you on the way, when you went out of Egypt, how he happened upon you on the way and cut off all the stragglers at your rear. The word used here, that we're translating as cut off, is vayizanev, from the root zanav, which actually means tail. So you think it's because it's referring to the tail end of the Israelites, the stragglers. But we read here in our Parsha in 28:13 in the blessings, Hashem will set you at the head and not at the tail. And you'll only be at the top and will not be at the bottom if you obey the commandments of Hashem your God, which I am commanding you this day to observe, to fulfill them. But later in verse 44 of the curses, we read concerning this stranger among you, he will be a head, but you will be a tail. So what's going on here with this tail-based word? Amalek struck us in a tail-like manner, and Hashem is saying to you, you want to be the head or the tail? Torah uses this tail-based word to describe Amalek's attack. And then we proceed to state that if we merit to the blessing, we shall be as the head, and if not, we shall be as the tail. To be as the tail, for us to be as the tail, is Amalek's goal. What does that mean? The tail is the opposite of the head. The head is where it happens. The head is where renewal can happen. The tail is stuck. Amalek wants us to be stuck in nature, meaning in a perception that things are just the way they are. They get old. We get old. We can't change. Every day is the same. Happenstance, coincidence. That's the tail. That's the opposite of Rosh Hashanah. And it's the opposite of the Bikurim. Because Reshit, where we need to be, renewal, starting over, that's the secret of the Bikurim, the secret of Rosh Hashanah. It's the head. As this year draws to a close, our prayer is that we should merit together, may we merit together, to be constantly renewed, to merit Hashem's new light in the coming year, to recognize Hashem's goodness in our lives as the source of everything, and to declare it. May we merit the true joy that is each new day, never old, never stuck, never the same. Shana Tova. May we have a healthy and happy and wonderful, light-filled new year.